I went to sleep hoping to wake up for news of the Kings trading for Cam Johnson, maybe for John Collins, and instead we get some other news. We get some news about the Kings taking trade calls for De'Aaron Fox. That's not the news that I wanted to get this morning. And what the local media in Sacramento is reporting is that the Kings just had a conversation with a team. They picked up the phone. They had a conversation with Fox himself and Rich Paul. It's also reported that Fox's preferred destination if he does get traded is San Antonio. That makes sense for multiple reasons. But let's be clear here. This reporting is not saying that Fox has requested a trade, and it's not saying that the Kings front office will trade Fox. This is saying that pretty much Fox hasn't changed his stance at all. Like, that's pretty much what it is. He's willing to sign an extension if the Kings improve the team, or he wants to be traded. That was his stance before, and that seems to be the exact same thing. We had Damian Barling reporting that De'Aaron Fox will sign a contract with one of two teams, Sacramento or San Antonio. And so this is the Kings front office. This is the Kings front office being the ones to have some talks. And it makes sense to pick up the phone. You hear out the trade offers. That makes sense. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Because what the Kings front office has to do at this deadline is pick a path. They have to pick a path. They either have to go in on this core or they have to say, this really isn't it. Let's blow it up. And I will say the kind of annoying thing about this coming about is this means that the Kings haven't totally committed to just improving this core. And to me, it's just like, okay, you fired a coach, you're playing better now, things are looking up, like just make the move. You have De'Aaron Fox, you have Domantas Sabonis. I mean, you have a non-shot blocking center, you have two small guards as your main core that you're building around. You added DeMar DeRozan, who's not a defensive player. It's been so obvious what this team needs to improve, and the front office just hasn't done it. The front office hasn't gotten the defensive size and length that it needs to surround these guys with. And so if the front office doesn't get those guys, then Fox is gone. And that's fair enough. But the Kings just have to commit to something, and that's why I actually like what Fox is doing. I know some people will like villainize Fox and all this, and Rich Paul and Clutch Sports. Like, I like it. I like Fox putting the pressure on the front office. I like him saying, like, either build this team, do it the right way, commit to this core, and this core obviously it's worth committing to. Like, you're winning games, you have a lot of talent. Commit to it and improve it, or trade me, or blow it up. And I do think that this core is worth committing to. I think they've shown that. And, I don't want to go into another rebuild. I don't. But trading Fox, that's pretty much what you're doing. Do I think that this team is a championship team? Obviously not. Do I think with a couple of trades this team is a championship team? Probably not. I mean, it's really hard to win a championship, especially without like a top 10 player in the league. That's tough. But I've only seen this team make the playoffs once in my lifetime. Like, I still want this team, like this core can win playoff series. This team can put themselves into a position that it maybe if things really fall right, then maybe they do end up in the championship. Like, things would really have to fall right and you would have to make improvements, but you never know. And so this reporting, it annoys me that it means that the Kings haven't committed to actually going in on this core, and that there's, like, of course, keep your options open. Like, I get it, but I just want them to have made the trade by now. That's the good thing about all this. Something's going to happen. And I didn't think we would get a lot of this Fox trade talk around the deadline. I thought it would be all in the off season, and it still might be, but I just want the Kings to actually give this core a chance by making a trade. Because let's say you do pick the path of trading Fox, and maybe it's because you don't think you can improve this roster enough to convince him to stay or to make it a championship team, because in the NBA so much is like, just can you win a championship? And it's like, if you don't think that this core is able to win a championship in the next, however many years, then it's like, okay, you got to blow it up. And then you try to get the number one pick and you try to get a Victor Wembanyama so then you can win a championship. It's like, okay, let's say that's the case. Let's say you want to trade Fox because you don't think that he'll sign. I know there are some people that then are just like, let's trade him, and then you get some pieces back, you get some wings, and you go all in on Monk being your point guard, and you still have DeRozan, and you still have Sabonis, you still have Keegan, and you add some guys that fit better and balance the roster. And I do think, like, just thinking about it like that, that could still be a very talented roster. That could still be a playoff roster. The fit could be great. Monk could blossom into a star player with that opportunity. I get it. I get looking at it like that. And it would still be fun to watch a team like that be, try to make playoff runs. It would. But I think you also have to look at it and say, well, why did Monk come to Sacramento? He came because of Fox. Why did DeMar come to Sacramento? He came because Fox recruited him. Why did Sabonis sign that extension? Probably because he had a partner in De'Aaron Fox. This team has just been built around Fox. Whether it's built well or not is a different story, but it's built around Fox. And we've seen short-term results when Fox has been out a little bit, but I think long-term, it would take a lot for this team to make up for what you're losing in Fox, because the return for a player like that is just never as good as the player itself. You would have to add a lot of defense to be able to make up for the offense that you're losing, because you're just not going to replace the offense that Fox provides. And so I just think in a scenario where you trade Fox, it's just so hard to see a real path forward without him. And you would have to, I think, break up this team. Because to really be anything, you need another star player. You need a guy that can get you 30 points as easily as Fox can. And this team is just built around Fox. I just think you would have to go into a rebuild if you traded him, because you're just not going to be as good without him. Even though, yes, I do think we have a lot of talent, and you could be okay for a little bit, but overall, I just don't think it would be smart to trade him and still be trying to win. I see all the Fox hate for some reason in the Kings community lately. And there's also like this talk about, well, you don't want to pay him a supermax contract. It's like, well, okay, stop saying that. He's not going to get a supermax contract. He's not making all NBA. So can we just stop with that? This team just is not the same at all without De'Aaron Fox. And you are not going to be able to really move forward without him, unless you get a massive haul with like a really good young player that blossoms into a star. But that tends to be really rare when it comes to trading a star player. The good thing about all this is that we will get answers soon, even if those answers are that the Kings front office does nothing and we're going to ride it out the rest of the season. Even though, that would suck, but at least we would get some answers. We're going to get answers within the next week and a half. We will get answers by the trade deadline. It seems like anything could happen at this point, but I just want the Kings front office to make a move to win now. Make a move to build around this core, give it a shot. Like if you trade Fox now, you just haven't actually given this team a shot. And if they trade Fox now, I don't see how you can retain this front office, because you made all these moves to try to win now, and then you just trade Fox without ever giving it a real shot. That would just be a really bad way to go out of this era of Kings basketball. So please, Monty McNair, if you are listening, just make a trade. Make a trade to improve this team. Give us the balance that this roster deserves. So anyways, that is it for this episode of The Real Report. Of course, I will be right back here if anything does happen, if there's any more major news. But until then, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.